You have to make some important choices at the start of Assassin's Creed Shadows, and there are also other settings and gameplay changes that are handy to know about before jumping in or while already playing the game, so a ton to go over. Shout out to Ubisoft for sponsoring the video. That really helps me to maintain my team of 2 full-time employees, and also freelancers are helping with the launch to get more content to you quicker. So check Shadows out via the link in the description. That would really support the channel as well. One thing the game asks you at the start is if you want to play in the Canon Mode or not. And this is important because you cannot change this later on. So the Canon Mode removes all the dialogue choices in the game. You are basically experiencing the events in the way that Ubisoft intended them. Now there are still moments where characters will ask you if you are ready to embark on a quest or if you want to prepare some more. You can still switch between Naue and Yasuke at any point in the game, and also during particular encounters during main story missions, just like in the regular mode. But in the Canon Mode you will not see the multiple ways you can respond to certain situations, or you won't be able to frame a certain target when you get the choice between multiple options, or you cannot decide to spare or kill someone. When playing in the Canon Mode, you will not even know if there was a dialogue option because the cutscenes will not be interrupted. But the most interesting part is that this does not mean that you get a good or the best possible outcome. In many cases, you will miss the romance opportunities. While you can choose to flirt with certain characters in the regular mode, in the Canon Mode, Naue and Yasuke mostly prefer to be alone. Which kinda sad actually, but more important is that one character will not join you if you play in the Canon Mode, with nothing you can do about it. While interacting with them during the main story or their special side missions, you will sometimes see a warning saying that this will impact that ally. So if you make the wrong choice here, there's a chance that they won't join you. So then they are not in your hideout, but more importantly, you cannot use them in stealth or combat to help you out, which is kinda huge. Now in the Canon Mode, you cannot make choices, so you will not see that notification, and this means that there's one ally you won't be able to recruit, while in the regular mode you have the option to get all of them. So good to keep that in mind when you make this choice. Seems like you can still get all the trophies and achievements in the Canon Mode though, as meeting one of the allies already gets you the trophy instead of actually recruiting them. But the settings menu does note that some trophies cannot be unlocked in the guided exploration mode. And I will tell you which one in a moment, but yeah, this choice is also important. Exploration mode is on by default, so you get hints as to where your next objective is, and you can now use your scouts to reveal the quest marker in the area you are looking for. In my experience though, this can be quite challenging, and especially early in the game, you want to use those scouts instead to get resources for your hideout by marking the stockpiles in restricted areas. You can also use them to remove an alarm when you are wanted, and even if you don't use your scouts during a season, they can still get loot for you and put them in the chest in your hideout. So scouts are useful in multiple ways. This means that in the guided mode you can use your scouts to get more resources, so basically speed up your process because you don't need them to look for objectives. They will immediately appear on your map. New is that the guided mode also reveals where the targets on your objective board are, which kind of feels like cheating as it sometimes lets you skip objectives that would give you clues, but you can also use it if you are stuck, so play mostly on the exploration mode. You cannot find the target, quickly switch to guided mode, locate the target, then switch back to exploration mode as you know now where to look. I played mostly on the guided mode as it was a way more relaxing experience for me, but yeah, that does mean that you cannot get all the trophies according to the menu. Well, I asked Ubisoft and they confirmed to me that it's actually only one trophy or achievement you cannot get. And that is the one called a scouting mission, as it requires you to gather information using a scout. You can't get this one because it's simply impossible to perform this because all the information will already be on your map in the guided mode. But yeah, that does mean that it's not really an issue because you can simply get this trophy in the exploration mode, make sure you track a clue by the way, and then dispatch the scouts at the right location. You now get the trophy, can go back to the guided mode if you want, and still get the platinum or full achievement score. Got way more important info, and of course, if you like the video so far, be sure to leave a like and subscribe for way more spoiler-free Assassin's Creed Shadows content like this. Another interesting setting I want to highlight is in regards to the QuickTime events. Like, there are no regular QuickTime events during cutscenes or anything, but you do have these orange activities on the map that you want to do to get knowledge points. With enough knowledge points, you unlock a new knowledge rank, and this opens up a new line of skills in each tree. For Naue, her Kuchigiri meditation has these button prompts appear that then eventually disappear, so you gotta remember them. Well, if you put the QuickTime event setting on auto, the game will auto-complete the activity for if you don't like it. You can also do simplistic, and then the prompts will be much easier to complete, like just being 2 buttons instead of 4 different ones. And you can also auto-complete the katas from Yasuke, or also here put them on simplistic to make the prompts easier, and then you can even fail one of the combos from the set and still complete the activity. So handy to know if you're having trouble. And yes, you see me use the deluxe edition items here. I got a video going way more in depth on that on the channel. Maybe by the time you watch this, it's already up. You will then find it in the video description. Another setting I want to quickly touch on is called Area Loot. This lets you instantly pick up all the loot from enemies close to each other instead of having to go to each body individually. Wish the range was a bit longer, as it sometimes doesn't let you grab everything, and it sadly does not work on the resource pickups that you find close to each other, which would have been nice, but still a great setting to turn on. Another mode you can select at the start is normal or immersive, which basically means do you want to play in English or with Japanese voice acting, and here's a nice comparison.
He can barely move. She poisoned us.
Do not blame your weak little stomachs on me.
こやつはもう動けん。毒を盛られたんじゃ。
胃が弱いのを人のせいにしないでおくれ。
And what if she did poison that man?
That is what we will find out.
されど男に毒を持っていたとしたら。
調べればすぐにわかる。
I played in English, and while I was worried that Naoe's voice would not land, I did not really mind her performance. I thought it was actually pretty good throughout the full game. Also worth noting is that even in both the normal and immersive mode, the Portuguese will still speak Portuguese to each other. And you can also, just like the guided and exploration mode, switch to the immersive mode or go back to English whenever you want. You can also always switch the difficulty, and this also won't have an impact on your trophies or achievements, but it will of course impact your gameplay. It's the most noticeable during stealth, I will touch on that in a moment, but it's also interesting to know what changes when you switch from normal to expert in combat. So of course the enemies hit harder. This is the general type enemy on normal, and now that same enemy on expert deals this, so with the same 2 hits, so that's a noticeable difference. And to real quick give you another example, this spear soldier on normal takes 14 hits to kill me, but on expert it's 10. Now from our testing, the amount of hits it takes for you to kill these enemies is not really impacted, so enemies do not really become tankier. The game does note in the settings menu that you should use your highest level weapons and gear, but that's a tip you should use overall, because the damage increase per level on these items is pretty significant. The biggest change though is that in any difficulty you will see these white glows telegraphing a regular enemy attack, so they can more easily block or parry it and counter the enemy, but on expert you will not see these anymore. So on expert you have to observe the enemy's movement more, which is more rewarding. The red glowing unblockable attacks that you want to dodge out of the way from, and the blue flurry combo attacks that you want to all parry to stun the enemy, will still be highlighted in the expert mode. I switched to the expert difficulty halfway through the game, by the way, and I still did not really find a challenge, especially in the boss fights, so I hope they release a nightmare difficulty or something later on. Expert difficulty on stealth is way more challenging. Here I go into this camp on normal and can just without worry go on the rooftops and even to the next building. I have all the time in the world to scout the area. But on expert, the brute immediately spots me, and later other enemies will be noticing me on the roof as well. Worth noting though is that you do stay hidden on roofs if you remain in the shadows. So you really have to be more strategic on the expert difficulty. And I think it's interesting to go over the assassinations and how they are calculated as well to get you up to speed, because it's this time all about the health segments that enemies have. At the start of the game you can assassinate enemies with 2 health segments, but by upgrading the Hidden Blade skill you can increase that. And also by wearing gear pieces you can increase it even further, although they usually specify how to assassinate an enemy in order to get the bonuses from the gear piece. For Yasuke's brutal assassinations, it's a bit easier, so you can only do that from the ground, and you can also upgrade this in the skill tree and go all the way up to 7 health segments. And you can still use the brutal assassination even if you don't kill the enemy, then you will just do a regular slash, but yeah, then start the fight with a nice head start. You can also do this with Naue, but yeah, you immediately start combat, which you want to avoid with Naue overall. But to round it all out, of course, you can also turn on the guaranteed assassination setting, and then every hidden blade kill and also every brutal assassination with Yasuke will be a one-hit KO no matter what. I think it's way more fun and rewarding to go for the regular progression that they put in place, and I got a ton of tips for that and other things to become overpowered early in my early things video that you can watch by clicking on the screen if it's already up. Just subscribe to not miss any of the spoiler-free Shadows content. Got a question? Drop it in the comments, and a like on the video would of course also really help me out. I will speak to you soon. Goodbye.